Good day and thank you for joining me on another episode of Your Family Lawyer. My name is Earl and I am alright, family lawyer and counseling psychologist. Okay, I would like to say this from the very beginning that what I share here is not professional advice, right? Yes, you can take it as a professional opinion, as legal education, but if you ever have questions that pertains to the issues that I discuss on Your Family Lawyer, I want you to consult a lawyer next to you or use the details of this particular video to reach out to me. Today, I want to answer the question if a woman can or should keep her surname after a divorce. Should she keep her ex-husband's surname after a divorce? For us to understand this particular topic and for us to understand the purpose of surnames and why women started picking their husband's surnames, we'll need to go back in history and review it from there. If we don't do the historical background to understand why this even exists, why this culture exists, why this practice exists for married women to pick their husband's surnames or to pick their husband's first name as their surnames or to do a combination of both, right? As we say in this, if we don't have the understanding of it, we may not understand the answer that I will give if a woman can keep her ex-husband's surname after a divorce. A long time ago, people wanted the situation, the government and the community and society wanted the situation where they could properly address a family. For example, if you want to address my family, what would you call my family? You're most likely going to call my family the Alrights. And that's for those of you who know my first name, Alright. For other people who are familiar with my surname, which is Egbe, they are most likely going to say, oh, the Egbes, right? And so when it comes to addressing a family, people wanted the situation where they'll be able to have one name to address the family. Then came the question that a family, a husband and a wife, are one under many sociocultural contexts and also under religious laws and practices out there. So the question became, if the husband and the wife are one, which one are they? Are they one towards the man, who is the husband, or they are one towards the woman, who is the wife? And it was agreed that they are one towards the husband because the husband is the head of the family. So automatically, that family should be addressed by the name of the man. Right? You understand it now? So it's the concept of, oh, and the two shall become one. And the question is, which one? So if these two are becoming one, yes, they are forming a new entity. So this is a new family. This is a marriage of its own. But then, which name should we address them by? So I say, okay, let us address them by the surname of the man. Let's not forget that before now, your name earns you social reputation, social benefits, social privileges, right? So a maiden was required to take the name of her father, and while she was single, she enjoyed the social benefits, the social capital of her father. Now, by the time she got married, we are not talking about 2024, where we know right now women have the right to vote, women have the right to education, women have the right to work outside the home, women have the right to same privileges, same rights as men enjoy at the end of marketplace and everywhere else. We are talking about an age and a time more than 100 to 100 years ago, thereabout, where women had no say of their own. They were not altogether independent. They had to still be dependent on their father, the family, or dependent on their husband, right? And these women would have to live their lives based on whatsoever social reputation, economic reputation of their spouse. Now, for you to show that you were married to someone, to enjoy that person's rights, to enjoy that person's privileges, you have to use Mrs. that person. All right. So you have to say that, oh, I am married to this person. So I'm supposed to be able to get things on credit in this person's name. I'm supposed to be able to enjoy some rights and privileges in this person's name, especially if your husband was at war, right? So if he was at war, the society, the community, the government had a responsibility to take care of that woman, provide for that woman pending when her husband returned, or to be deducting it from the husband's salary. So the idea of taking a husband's surname was to show an affiliation, an attachment, was to show dependency on that particular man. Right, and to show that, and of course, we all know that marital status matters, and it's not only for women, also for men. Some people will say, why is it that it's a big deal for a woman to get married? The truth about it is that even for those of us that are men, there are many things we cannot achieve. There are some certain cadres and some certain levels in our workplace, in our social interaction that we cannot attain if we are not married. Go back to your churches. There are some positions that men cannot attain if they are not married. It's the same in many organizations. It's the same in many communities. You cannot. So in some communities, you cannot even become a king, even if it's your right, if you are not married. You cannot become a chief if you are not married. Right. So marriage is not a social requirement of women alone. Men are also required to marry. I know under customs and traditions where a man may not even be able to attain a particular age grade, become a member of a particular age grade, or attain some cultural positions if he does not have more than one wife. Right? So it is something that is out there. It is something that we experience every time. So it's not just for women. But then we realize that, for men, you usually have the master, you have the mister. For women, you have the miss, you have the missus, and you have the miss with the MS. Right? So for you to enjoy that social status as a woman, that social status of a married woman, because there are rights and privileges that accrue to married women in our cultures and society that may not accrue to single women, right? And I'm not talking about 2024, I'm talking about years before now. And even today in 2024, in most of your villages, right, if we are sincere with ourselves, and even in some of our churches and our social gatherings. So for you to be able to attain that particular status, your name has to carry Mrs. So-and-so to show that you're married. So once people hear the name or people see the name or they read the name, automatically they know that you are married, right? And that meant that women needed to pick their husband's surname to actually show this is the person I'm married to, this is the person I'm connected to, this is the person I am dependent on, or this is the person that I have union with. However, today things have changed, society has changed. Women now have rights of their own and in themselves. They not necessarily have to be dependent on any man. So right now, a woman does not need her husband's consent to get an international passport, to travel. She does not need to change her name before she can fill a form and state that she is married. She does not need to do many things our grandmothers and great-grandmothers had to do to get social recognition. So what then happens when people get married today? They still want to change their surnames, and today we cannot actually tell which surnames they are taking, because it's either they are taking their husband's family surname, or they are taking their husband's first name as their surname, or they are taking their husband's first name and surname in a compound name as their surname, or they are taking their own father's surname and their husband's surname, combining it together to form a new surname. So when we go out there today and we see women use Mrs., we actually cannot tell whose surname they are taking, whether is a combination of their father's name and their husband's name, or it's a combination of their husband's surname and his first name, or it is just their husband's surname. Like, right? People have the choice these days to take whatsoever name that they want to take. For me, my wife took my name, my first name, as her surname. So she is Vivian Allright, although my surname is Egbe. In a case of divorce, I've had people ask me again and again, and this is why I decided to address this topic today. I've had people ask me, oh, must I change my surname after a divorce? This is it. Clearly speaking, by law, there is no law that requires a woman to change her surname after a divorce, right? There's no law that says so. In fact, you cannot even compare her to change that surname. You can only bring in an application to forbid her from using that surname if you believe that she's acting in a way and she's behaving out there as though she's still your wife when she's no longer your wife, or she's living a life out there that is bringing disrepute and bringing damage to your name because it's your surname. Right? So if you're able to prove that in court that she's still going out there trying to enjoy rights privileges of being your wife when in reality she's no longer your wife, or she is acting in a way that is damaging your reputation, that is damaging your name because people still assume she's your wife, if you're able to bring up that application in court, yes, then the court can stop her from using the surname. The court may forbid her from using the surname. But if nothing like that exists, if you cannot show that, if you cannot prove that, the woman has the liberty to continue with that name and change the name. When you understand the process it takes to change a name in Nigeria, you would realize that it is not so wise for people to change their names. I'll tell you why. I'm going to use my colleagues as an example. In the legal practice, many of my female colleagues are still using their maiden name officially. The reason is simple. The process it takes to change that name in the Supreme Court, right, in the court register, is so burdensome that it may take more than 6 months, 8 months, or even more than 1 year for a woman to be able to achieve that. So many of the women don't even bother. They don't mind. They just leave it. You understand it now? They don't even bother going through the stress. Before now, for you to change your name, and which is still one of the common practice we still do, is that you depose to an affidavit, for a change of name. It is advertised in a newspaper publication. Then based on the affidavit and newspaper publication, you approach the NIMC for you to have a name changed on your national ID card, right? So that is still one of the ways people change their name and the most common way. However, recently in Supreme Court judgments, the court judgment says that you are supposed to use deed poll to do a change of name and register it with the Ministry of Interiors. I'm a lawyer, and unfortunately, I want to mention that in 2 years, my colleagues and I have been finding how to register that deed poll, and it's not working. We can't find. So the Supreme Court has given a judgment, but that judgment is not practicable out there. There's actually no way you can say, oh, this is how I want to do it, and you'll be able to do it. No platform, no medium for that. And it is not so stressful. So the best way people now do is just to do it and change it through their NIN. Now, let's not forget that this woman has changed her name. She changed her name for the marriage. So let's say she was Mrs. Lagbaja, or rather she was Miss Veronica Lagbaja before the marriage. And after the marriage, she changed her name to Mrs. Veronica Kokoroko, right? And now she is now divorced. You say she should go and change her name again to, you're wanting her to either change her name back to Lagbaja, or maybe while she's still using Miss Kokoroko, she now remarries another person and you're wanting her to change it to Mrs. Veronica or Igbemume. Like, do you know how much stress it will be for her to always prove that she is the same person when she presents her documents in all these years bearing different names? It is this stress that makes many women to reserve the name and to keep the name and refuse changing the name. Some may now also want to change it because of the social reputation they have built with that name. Right. So while they married this particular person, maybe they married this person for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, they built a social reputation for themselves with that name. So that name is more or less like their brand identity. Telling them to change it means that all those who knew them with this name will not be able to recognize and identify them again with this new name. And that cost of rebranding, that cost of informing your people, informing your audience, informing your clients, informing your fans, and all the people out there that yes, this person is still the same as this person. It's costly and it takes a lot of time. Because of this, some will choose to reserve the name, right? I know. Some people say, oh, but if you're no longer with him, why are you still using his surname? Why are you still keeping his name? Why don't you change it? Hello? There is no law in Nigeria that insists that that name must change. There's no law in Nigeria that demands that a woman must change her surname post divorce, right? The husband can only apply for the name to be changed if for any reason she is bringing damage and disrepute to him and to his name. Outside that, you can make her change it. If she chooses to keep it, that's fine. If she chooses to let it go, that's also fine. The stress involved is what makes many keep it. So if you're out there and you see a married woman who still keeps her husband's surname, I think you should be gracious. Things you should consider should be maybe this is very difficult for her to change, and changing it will cost her what she has built over the years. And if your wife is not your ex-wife right now, it's not causing damage to your reputation, it's not causing damage to your social image or to your family name, I think it is unwise for you to insist that she changes the name. It's her name, it's not yours. Let's not forget that I can decide today to say I want to change my name to be Alright Dangote. I can say that I want my surname to now be Dangote, even without having any relationship or connection with the man Aliko Dangote. I can decide to choose that right now. Where Dangote come against me, he can only come against me if I am presenting myself out there to be connected or related to him. But if that is not the case, and the reason why I changed the name is because I like the name Dangote, he cannot do anything about it. I wish I could stay here and just talk more and more, but I have to let you guys go and end this live right now. If you have any questions, I want you to drop them in the comment section and I will respond to them. You could also use the details of this particular video to reach out to me and I will attend to you. Remember that what I share here is not legal advice, it's just legal opinion for educational purposes. So if you have any legal questions, you can contact me directly or a lawyer that is close to you. Do not make legal decisions and legal choices without first consulting with a lawyer. Your family lawyer holds here every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Nigeria time. So I'd like to see you again next week, Tuesday. I'll also be discussing another amazing topic. My name is Earl and I'm alright. I still remember your favorite on a personality, a lawyer, and counseling psychologist. And from the ancient modern city of Ibadan, you rock. Bye bye.